I want to talk about a little bit more in terms of like workshop facilitator once again. Like what does that mean for the people that don't understand?
So it's going into a space with people.
Yeah.
I work with young people mainly, but I can work with all ages. And you're facilitating a group to work through a topic using a specific framework. I work quite somatically, so I work with, when I do my drama workshops, I will get them to do a small visualization or a bit of
Nice.
mindfulness, like the mind body connection, because everyone comes into that room with something and you want them to drop it at the door, but they might not be able to. So if they can work through it in that session, or they can, whatever it is that that they're carrying,
Yeah.
they either work through it, or the session actually allows them to step away from it, as well as learn something new and kind of obviously educate themselves. So yeah, workshop facilitation has been a way that I've sustained myself as a creative, working with different companies, charities, performing arts schools, businesses, and then also going back to mentor and work with young people at my old college, Lambeth College.
Yeah.
That's been brilliant.
Like how long have you been working with Lambeth College for?
I've not been there for a while now, as my mentor Roy left. He worked somewhere else.
Big up Prayer. Where did he go? To Africa?
He went to Sutton, I think.
To the Saturn? Where's Saturn?
Sutton,
Space?
it's outside of Croydon.
Oh shit.
Yeah, but yeah, I became the face of Lambeth College actually.
Come on.
Yeah,
Come
yeah.
Bigger up, man. Bigger up.
That campaign, that commercial campaign, was on the side of buses.
Yeah.
It was on Sky. It was
It sounds right.
Yeah.
It's only right. When was it?
2018 to
Yeah.
2020. I think
sounds
they did it that summer, but then they had I gave them a 5-year to
Okay.
use it, because it was so weird. You'd walk into the college,
Yeah.
and it would just be my face, because they were just playing it on loop,
Yeah.
you know. And pictures on the tube and stuff like that. It was fun. It was a fun time. I was getting a lot of photos from friends.
Oh, did you gonna say that?
They'd seen buses go past, and they'd go, "Oh, it's so," but the photo was blurry, you know? So like my long face.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a proud moment, because it's somewhere that I'm proud to have gone. They supported me a lot as a young 16-year-old girl with a dream, and going back there and working with young people there, seeing them now. Some of them, I'm still connected to. They're acting. Yeah. They're doing
Big
really
them
well.
up.
Yeah.
You see that education, yeah? I tell a lot of people, innit? Like, you usually get people who, for whatever reason, like, they stopped education early. As soon as they finished secondary school, they tried college and they just went into work. And you got other people, like, for example, like you, who you seem like you proper loved education, and obviously you still do work within the education system. Like, again, not to get political here, that. What are your thoughts of, like, the education system just in general? Because like, usually, I'm sure you guys, either in private or not, you hear some people still try to say like, oh, the education system is basically still like back in the days. Nothing has really changed in terms of like how they teach kids. Like all of these kind of things.
Yeah.
Like through these conversations, sometimes I just try to like, to see if obviously things are changing or if people are right or whatnot. And obviously, once again, you spoke about you do quite a lot of work within the education sector. You get what I'm trying to say, and like, what are your thoughts in terms of like how the education teach this new generation of kids?
I think they're...
Because I'm a parent too as well, so I'd like to know. Because even I've got a 12-year-old daughter and you're 8, and I want.
Yeah. I think the schools. I mean, considering the lack of funding, which is absolutely abhorrent. It's disgusting.
Let's talk about that even for a second. The lack of funding from the government.
Yeah.
Why isn't, like, I don't want you to lose your chain of thought in terms of that.
Yeah.
But even just in terms of like the lack of funding, I don't understand it.
No.
If the government, not even if, why isn't the government funding a lot of these schools enough when they know like our kids, the new generation, always need the education? If you get where I'm coming from.
I mean,
where's this? How come there's no funding from the government?
Austerity, Tories. I don't know if I need to say more than that. But French toast too is definitely a middle finger up to the Tories.
Okay.
And also the fact that, you know, being in schools and seeing the absolute lack of resources, but teachers, staff, I was a TA, you know, doing everything they can to support those young people, the families. And as well, I think there's also been a shift, because sometimes you're having to parent, but you're also having to take on things that parents would have been doing, but they don't have the time necessarily because they're having to work so hard, because, you know, salaries haven't risen. So they're having to do extra time or more work or full time. And I think that schools are doing a great job. Some schools can obviously do better, but it's about the individual boroughs, councils, different areas,
and different kind of people in the.
If we're talking about sorry to even cut you guys.
Yeah.
If we're talking about once again the government.
Yeah.
And education. Obviously different boroughs. They've got like obviously different mayors representing all of these different boroughs, right? Yeah.
And different amounts of money which they spend in different ways.
Exactly. Like, so should we put like a little bit of blame to these mayors within like, our boroughs, because surely it's their responsibility in terms of like getting this money and making sure this money is getting spent in the right places?
I think there's already a deficit in what the schools should be getting, all public services.
Yeah.
Look at our NHS. But also, I think that...
Every time you say the NHS, I feel like saying what I want to...
Yeah, but I think that there's also... There's corruption everywhere.
Of course.
And the councils are also guilty of that and mismanaging money.
Somewhere along the way, some people... We don't want to go into it, but...
No.
Somewhere along the way, some people are eating money.
Yeah, of course. And also spending on things that should... Or not saving in areas that should be saved, you know. Yeah, exactly. So I think that the way that it's been spent, but also what they've been given. I mean, being a teaching assistant a few years ago, we were having to use PVA glue to get the children to stick their books in, because there was no prick stick.
Prick stick.
So we had to paste it in and stick it in at one point, because the glue sticks were running low. We'd have to we couldn't give a glue stick per child, and then it got to 1 glue stick per table, then it got to 2 glue sticks for the class, and they had to do the corners, and that's how it was going. And that was 2019, 2018, 2020, around then. It was getting desperate, and schools have, you know, a budget and they spend their budget, but also they're not given the resources that they need. So seeing that, having special educational children taking 2 years, 3 years, 4 years just to be statemented for neurodiversity, or, you know, autism, ADHD, ADD, all of these different things, then there's no resources to support those children. So I've worked in special educational schools, I've been in private schools, I've been in state schools, I've been in pupil referral units, I've been in all of them. And yeah, there is a common theme, and it's often a lack of resources, but also a lack of time. Teachers are overworked, underpaid, and it's the same with the teaching assistant. That's why I left, because when you said, do you look after yourself, I make sure I do now, because when I was doing that work, I was absolutely shattered, because I was giving it my all, but what you get back,
it's nowhere near enough.
It's not enough. Yeah. It's not enough. You want to do the best for the children.
Yeah.
You know?
You said you also worked in private schools and other places, yeah? What is for you, as someone who's worked in public school and private school, yeah? For you, what's the difference between both? Because I, as a parent, I've always said, obviously, I've wanted my kids to go in private school, hopefully my other kids, but yeah, for you, what's the difference between the proper difference between private school and public school?
I've not gone into private schools as a teaching assistant. I've gone in as a workshop facilitator, and also as a drama teacher after school. Of course, they have their budgets as well, and they raise their money privately also. But again, the resources are just incredible. The potential for children to realise their dreams, and also the different types of conversations that they have in those spaces. that's one of the differences that I see. But then we also go into private schools, and I've gone into private schools where we're teaching them to decolonize their curriculum, and there's a real strict enforcement of no jewelry, no nail polish, no, like, if you are the descendant of, for me, I'm descendant of, people that were enslaved, and walking in and seeing the Boer War monument was obviously quite upsetting for me, because I know what that war is and I know what it meant. Of course, we should always honour the dead. But there were just things that made me feel uneasy in those spaces, because there is a lot of racism in them, and it's the structure. It's the structure. But there are people working in those spaces and those schools that are trying to shift things, that are creating spaces for global majority and Black students, that want to celebrate everyone's differences. But it's a lot more work than doing that in a state school, I would say, where, it's just a lot more diverse. Yeah. There's just more diversity.
A lot more
naturally, Also, I think in private schools, they have a problem retaining teachers who are of global majority and Black descent.
Yeah. As someone who also, obviously you've got black parents as well, yeah? Like, obviously, once again, all of us are growing up, we're doing different things, and, we got social media, and a lot of us, we see so many different things in it, in so many different ways more than ever, because we live in an information world, right? Like, even earlier, one of the person that we interviewed, I just asked him a question. We just spoke about, that Black business. And obviously, again, like you say with the chain, Black business, yeah? Why do you think, again, before even I say this, I understand people are making an effort. There's a lot of Black businesses out there, You see, Black people as a community, yeah? Well, like, for you, what do you think, for you, obviously, in terms of, like, growing up with Black people and, just seeing so many different ways, why do you think, like, a vast majority of Black people find it difficult to work together and build together, either business-wise, as a community? You get me? Because I feel like sometimes these conversations are kind of not needed, but we should have them even a bit more often and just breaking it down in different aspects. Because, like what my cousin said, like, we've got like a long road here called West Green Road. There's so many roads where you see Turks, Turkish people, like, for numerous years, Indian people, Asian people, like, we've seen them for so many years. Yeah, we've seen them for so many years, like, continue years after years, build their communities, bringing in their kids, and they continue to build, and we see the results of that, them being, creating like a lot of wealth for their kids and their kids, you get me? Like, but for us Black people, again, we are at a point where, once again, I said, there are people, I don't want to make this a one-sided thing, right?
Yeah, of course, it's happening.
It's happening.
I think,
you get me? But why do you think, like, what are your thoughts on it just in general? And why do you think, like, us Black people, even though we are fucking gifted in many, many ways, why do you feel like we are so behind still? Do you get what I'm trying to say, in terms of, like, still building? Because it's like, sorry, I'm just...
No, I think there's obviously, systematic racism and discrimination sustained over centuries has done a massive job on us. But I think if you look in the last 100 years, even, I think the Black community has really come so far. So many things have happened in the last 100 years. But it's difficult, because if you still look at culture, there is still a lot of
segregation.
There's a kind of crabs in a barrel mentality, and when I think of my grandparents that came over from Jamaica and the Caribbean community, there was partner. Families would all put in money. They would all support someone at one point. Everyone put money in, and then at 1 month someone would take all the money out, and that would help them with their business, their job, their rent, or a holiday, or whatever it was. Obviously, maybe not a holiday back then, maybe they were going back home. We don't really do that anymore, and I think
that's the question, like, why
culture,
not? What's happened?
I think that culture has to continue. I think traditions, like I said, routines and rituals, there are things that have to continue, and it's also about those generations continuing it, because my dad and his siblings then didn't have a partner. that then stopped. So
Yeah.
I think that perhaps technology, future, there's certain
It's the way of the world.
Also,
things change, but
Yeah.
I think that the old ways, we always come back to the old ways, but we don't always understand them, and we don't understand their importance. And I think perhaps maybe that's the reason why. But there's definitely, you know, even joking like, oh, this is a light skin face. Why are we still saying things like that? Why
That's
are we
me.
still talking about light skin, dark skin, nappy hair, straight hair, good hair? All of these terms, like they're damaging.
And I mean, there's certain things that or certain terms that they try to ban, like half caste.
Yeah.
And like, do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like once we get to our kind of age groups and stuff like that, there's a lot of stuff that we need to be kind of mindful of.
There's a lot of conditioning as well.
There's a lot of conditioning.
oh, there's a lot of conditioning, yeah.
Yeah.
Because everything
We
we
have
have
to
the mind,
know-
innit?
we
Once
have
you
to
get into
know
people's minds, it's different.
that where like everybody needs to know their heritage.
Yeah,
Regardless.
not everyone wants to
Not
though.
everybody wants to.
And that's the problem.
Not everybody wants to.
Because
But we need to though.
yeah,
I think so.
yeah. And if you think of Black Wall Street,
Yeah.
Black Wall Street, if you look at Notting Hill, if you look at Brixton,
Exactly.
if you look
Thank
at
you,
all of
thank
these
you.
communities
Hey, do you know what?
that
Yeah.
started to build and of
The black
course
community and
Look at you.
got, you know, disrupted every time. It takes a lot to rebuild.
Rebuild.
To build in the first place, but to rebuild, it's
Yeah.
so hard when you have systematic racism in place, ensuring that you are not going to succeed. People get tired.
Do you you know what? Sometimes using certain words before I ask a question might make people feel like what was I about to ask. But let me word it like this, yeah. The elephant in the room is once again, because I feel like sometimes it's good for us black people to try, if we're gonna move forward in certain ways, to take accountability. Yeah?
I agree.
So if we're talking about the key word here, distraction, yeah? Do you feel like with these social medias, once again, all of these things that's happening, do you feel like one of the reasons why we're also like kind of like behind when it comes to economics and building like our own, you know, like wealth as black people is because for whatever reason, as black people, we are the easiest like, you know, race to still distract.
I think
Because obviously, if we talk about music and whichever ways you wanna see it, you get me. Do you think that's one of the issues as well? Because we easily as black people, we're too distracted like in our culture. Again, not everybody. Because I always like to say,
there's,
but if you
the,
go
you know, there's they say things travel down in the DNA.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and trauma travels down.
oh,
You know,
you
it
could say that
does.
again. Yeah.
I don't subscribe to Black Trauma on screen. I don't watch, so I still haven't watched George Floyd's 12-minute video
Never.
because I said I'm not doing that. Something happens to your body when you do that.
Yeah.
Even now, Palestine, Congo, Sudan, I have sat for hours on my sofa watching, but after not for a while, and then go, no, I need to see this because I'm privileged. I have the option to turn it on and off. You know, they're living it. But there is something that happens to you when you are constantly seeing those images. It's so dehumanizing, but also you get used to that. And I think as black people, as a community, there's a conditioning that's happened over time where people are so used to seeing this, it's normal. No one blinks.
That's the issue.
No one blinks. You see someone getting arrested and there's so much brutality. It's important that these things are documented because we know.
Yeah.
We know it happens and we know that we have to try and prove it because obviously it's a racist system. But I think there's a choice that we have to make. What we watch, what we tap into, what we take in, and also what we share.
Oh, that's. Oh.
You don't have to share everything.
You're hitting all of the keynotes, to be fair. What we
have
share,
a conversation about it,
Yeah.
and then talk about how things can change.
Yeah.
That's what I think needs to start happening more. Conversations, change makers, community, people coming together. Everyone wants to, well, not everyone, many people want to strive for their own goals and their own things. But sometimes, as we've seen, you have to come together. You have to build as a family or a community for everyone to get what they need. And I think once we have that equity, will start to improve and will start to progress more.